Good. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming. My name is Larry Kraft. I'm the executive director of iMatter, and you're going to learn more about that, not from me, but from the founder and then from these students here from St. Louis Park, Minnesota. We're going to start just by giving you a brief intro. The workshop here is about giving your city a climate report card. And, in staying with the consistent to people being able to tell their story and connect, we're all going to share why climate change, why we're doing this work. And for me, I'm involved because I care about my kids' future, and specifically why I'm involved with iMatter and why I'm so excited to be here is that I've seen what people like you and these students can do, and I believe that passionate youth speaking up and taking action on climate is key and is maybe the missing link in the climate movement. So I'm really excited to be here and sharing this with you. Intros, go ahead.
All right, my name is Owen. I'm a senior at St. Louis Park High School, and this issue of climate change is really important to me because all my life I've been going to northern Minnesota, which is the Boundary Waters, and it's just a very beautiful place, and I'm afraid that with what's happening, it's not going to be there in the future. So.
All right. I'm Philip. I'm a junior at St. Louis Park High School, and the reason I got involved with the Roots and Shoots Club is through the AP Environmental Science class, because until then, all I had seen was just pictures of polar bears like stranded on glaciers, and I didn't really know what climate change meant. And so that class really opened my eyes to all the issues that humans are inflicting upon the environment, and I wanted to do more than just read about it in a book.
I'm Anya. I'm a senior, and the reason why I'm involved is because most of my days when I was a kid were spent out in nature just like having fun, and I would just hate to see future generations not have that.
Hey, I'm Zosha. I'm also a senior at St. Louis Park High School, and ever since I attended the Dodge Nature Preschool, the environment has played a huge role in my life, and I think that I'm involved with this because I feel as the youth, we're the ones inheriting this problem, and we're the ones that are going to have the most impact in changing it as well.
Hi, my name's Nathan. I am also a senior at St. Louis Park High School. I'm here today because I see climate change as the most pressing issue of our generation's time. It's up to us in these next couple decades to decide what the climate of our planet's going to be like for the next thousands of years. And I don't want to bring any kids into a world that me and my friends did nothing to do to save.
Okay, so I want to give you a little bit of background on iMatter. It's a kind of unique organization founded by a 13-year-old.
We, as young people, we have this amazing opportunity to actually be the ones to stand up and demand change. We care about our planet. We want our voices to be heard. The vision for iMatter grew out of another organization, Kids vs. Global Warming, which I started when I was 13 after seeing Al Gore's film, An Inconvenient Truth, and realizing that our addiction to fossil fuels is actually setting the Earth's climate out of balance. My generation, we're going to be stuck dealing with the worst effects of this crisis.
I feel that we as a generation are being called to stop global warming within our lifetimes.
iMatter, it's an organization of youth and adults that are all passionate about the same issue of climate change, that all recognize the power that the youth voice has to inspire other people about the issue and inspire them to get involved too.
We planned this event called the iMatter March, and we had over 200 marches in 45 countries. Young people stood up and marched in their streets to let people know that we care about climate change.
We only have one Earth, a very beautiful Earth, and it is up to us to take care of it.
When I found iMatter, youth were driving it, youth were building the websites, youth were taking the action, youth were writing the legislation, and to me that seemed like something I really wanted to be a part of.
The youth of iMatter, they are the future. They become the face of climate change, and they can compel action just with their presence. iMatter transcends the normal politics of this conversation because you can tell the story of climate change in a way that no other organization can.
The first 6 years that I was in Congress, I said that climate change was hooey, Al Gore's imagination. I ran again in 2004, and my son, our oldest of 5, just turned 18. He said to me, "Dad, I'll vote for you but you're going to clean up your act on the environment. This is why kids are so powerful, because they have the ability to get to our hearts and tell us that this matters.
I want a child centuries from now to be able to ask, what's climate change, to their parents, and I want their parents to be able to say, oh, that's an issue from a while ago, but there were youth that wanted to make a difference and saw that they needed to change their way of life, and thanks to them, this planet is still here today.
Okay, so that's a bit of background on I Matter. And you may have noticed in there the founder, Alec Lors, and Ace actually did quite a bit of work together several years ago. Now I want to tell you what's going on recently and with these folks up here. So now you're going to hear about the current campaign. It's only about 2 minutes more.
I founded I Matter as a teenager to give a voice to the generation most affected by climate change. And today we are launching I Matter Now, a network of passionate youth leaders who share the vision of ending the climate crisis within our lifetimes. It's our future that's at stake. So we are launching grassroots campaigns all across the country, holding our communities accountable for their responsibility to protect our future. Recently, an I Matter team in St. Louis Park, Minnesota met with their city council and presented a youth climate report card.
Simply stated, we are here because we are at risk.
We believe that what we have to say matters, and so we urge you to take action and become a leading city in developing a climate action plan that starts from what is scientifically necessary to preserve our future and not from what many may think is politically possible.
Well done, and thank you. I think there's a whole bunch of things, as we saw in the report card, that we can do a lot better on.
We need to be pushed, and we are trying to be very forward-thinking, but we can do more, and help us do that.
You might not realize just how powerful you are as a student group, whether it's this cause or any other cause. Students, young people, because you hold the promise of the future, it just, there's a built-in power to that you may not even realize you have.
And the time is now to come together as a united force to ensure a livable future for us, for your children, for your grandchildren, and for the generations to come. The time is now to create a sustainable future.
We are the transitional generation, the last to be born into a system that is failing us and the first to enter the regenerative and sustainable world that we all know is possible. So join us. You can learn more about the I Matter Now campaign and get started today by visiting imatteryouth.org.
Okay, so what you saw on there was this group presenting to City Council. You'll hear more about it. They stayed on City Council for a number of months and got some pretty cool things done and passed. And at the end of that time, this is what the mayor had to say about what the group had done.
Also say, I've been lobbied by a lot of people before. This was a textbook version of how to do this. And I mean this in the sense that frequently folks will come forward and they throw a whole bunch of specific things at us and they say, you should do this. And then we end up getting bogged down in picking what should we be doing. Instead, what you came forward was you came forward with a really clear vision for where we need to be. You got us to commit to it. And now we just kick it over to staff to figure out how to make it happen. So that's perfect. Well done. But I mean that in all seriousness. I've been lobbied by a lot of professional lobbyists, and this was as good as they get.
Okay, so now I'm going to let the team here take you through their journey with this and tell you about how they came into contact with it, tell you about their club and their reactions to it. And then you can ask questions. And then we're going to go into the workshop portion of this, where we're going to go through some of the steps with you to get you started. If you want to do this yourselves, we'll walk through the first few steps. Okay.
Oh,
excuse me. Go ahead. Yeah.
Our group started several years ago based off of Jayne Goodall's Roots and Shoots organization, which empowers youth on environmental action. And so our freshman year, we came in to the high school. We weren't in any clubs or anything, and we saw there was two final members of the group. The group was dying, and they had just completed a compost program. and they basically got compost integrated into our school, and that kind of like got us really interested in it, and then we kind of came in and took charge and started doing stuff in the group.
As Owen just said, the first project done by our group was really revamping the composting system in our lunchroom. So we noticed that all the trash was ending up in the trash bins, and so we decided to continue encouraging the usage of the composting bins in the cafeteria. So we made signs that labeled saying this is what goes in the trash, this is what can be recycled, and this is what can be composted. And so we tried to hype that up as much as possible and encourage our fellow students to actually sort through their lunch waste at the end of the lunch. But what we realized was that no one really cared enough to take the couple seconds to sort through the trash, and so we decided to lead by example. So we would, almost every day during lunch, we would put on rubber gloves and just dig through the trash and take out the compost and then put it into the compost. And this increased awareness for our group because it's kind of an uncommon thing to see your classmate digging through the trash at lunch. And so that got more visibility for our group and the projects that we were doing. And the next project that our group did, this was last fall, we did a compost fundraiser. So a large pile of compost was just dumped into the parking lot of a community center, and we bagged compost and then sold that to members of our community. And this increased our legitimacy as a group because it was transcending our group of activists in the school. It went beyond the school walls. We were actually explaining to members of our community about what we were doing, and we were gaining money as a club as well. And so what we did with that money was we built an aquaponics system in our AP Environmental Science classroom. Some people know what that is, some doesn't, but it's just basically a fish tank with plants on top, and the dirty fish water is pumped up into the plants, and then the plants filter it out so the fish have a suitable environment to live in, and then the plants clean the water. The plants clean the water for the fish, and the fish create waste that help the plants grow. And we wanted to demonstrate a sustainable way of food production, and the aquaponic system has been used in many of the AP Environmental Science classes' labs.
So, you may be wondering how I Matter and Roots and Shoots are connected. So, one of our group members is on a citywide environment and sustainability commission, and one of her fellow council members got her connected with Larry. So, Larry came to one of our early meetings last year, and this was just after our composting fundraiser. So, we were gaining awareness gaining name recognition within our community, and we were also at an age where we were ready to take action for something that was really important to us. And for I Matter, it was great for them as well because they were looking for pilot cities to start off campaigning. So when he came, he showed us the first video you guys saw, the I Matter story. The second one hadn't been created yet because we hadn't started doing anything yet. But, I Matter gave us something tangible to do that extended beyond our school building. And so soon after all of this happened, we started campaigning started designating the jobs for the first steps of the campaign.
So it was kind of a process to get into this campaign. The first step of that was creating the climate report card, which is what you're going to go with, Larry, and we're going to kind of walk you through today in more detail. But to do that, we created a survey and gave it to our city's environmental commission. And then through that survey, it graded our city in 5 key different areas, and we'll also discuss that later. So once the report cards was in place, we were able to start a petition and start walking down around our school and petitioning all the students at lunch. And after doing that for about 3 weeks, I believe, we came out with more than 500 signatures, which was nearly half of our student body. So to the city council, this proved that the issue of climate change transcended this group of activists and into the broader community and was inclusive of more people than just Roots and Shoots and I Matter. So with that, once we got, the next step was getting on the agenda. So because we had that friend who is part of the environmental commission, we were able to contact a city official through them and then find a place to voice our opinion on the agenda. So when the day came, we selected 4 people to speak at the city council. You can see us all up there. So we were selected to voice our opinions again. And the response, as you saw in the other video, the council was so receptive to what we gave them. And it was a completely empowering experience because we realized the power that we did have. And you even heard him say, like, you as the youth have so much power over this. And it's just a matter of our determination and our working together in this issue. And I feel like that was so amazing to get to experience that in real life and now get to pass it on to you guys who might be doing the campaign as well.
Okay, so after we presented to City Council, we were very well received. They had a lot of good things to say about it, but as you know, it's never that easy. And from there, we didn't really know where to go. So we attended the next City Council study session, which is pretty much like an informational meeting. And it's public, so we all went. And they were talking about a lot about the data of our city, where our emissions coming from, who was emitting the most. And we thought that was really good because it was kind of showing where we could be cutting back and what we needed to work on. But by the end of the meeting, they did not talk about when they were going to decide on our resolution. So Owen over here, he spoke up and he asked them, hey, when do you guys plan on voting on this? And I think it was maybe something about, having the youth there that we cared that much that really shocked them into gear. So right then and there, they decided to put it on the agenda for the next City Council meeting. So in May, we went back to City Council, and 4 of us spoke again. We really urged them to consider the livelihood of the younger generations and our city's legacy of progression and progress within our community. So after we were done speaking, again, they had a lot of praise for us. The mayor had a lot of good things to say about it. And then they voted on it, and they passed it unanimously. So that was really exciting for us. So pretty much the resolution that they passed had 3 main points. It was by 2040, our city needed to reach carbon neutral or net zero emissions, I should say. The youth needed to stay involved in the process and progress of it, and that the first step of action needed to be taken within 30 days. So as that 30-day deadline approached, again, we didn't really know what was going on. Nothing had happened yet. So Jayne, who's not here, sent out a bunch of emails to our city, and luckily, just a couple days before the deadline, they sent out an RFP, or a request for proposal, to attract potential contractors. So we got a lot of potential people applying for the spot, and after sifting through them, our city chose the Great Plains Institute to plan our climate resolution. So after going through the process of hiring them and analyzing stuff, just a couple weeks ago, they decided to start the 6-month plan of developing the climate action plan for our city. So we're really excited about that, and we hope to see that it'll be done by the time we graduate this year in May. And we are also staying involved in the process still. Our friend Jayne is on the Environment and Sustainability Commission, and she is staying in the process too.
So the impact it had on us, or the impact that the campaign had, is first, it just really empowered us. It showed us how powerful our voices can be, and really we completely changed like the future plans for our city. We made them enact like a major plan, and then secondly, this campaign really just opened up many more opportunities for us. It gave us really good public speaking experience, and it also landed us here. We did this as like a kind of like a pilot campaign, and it really took off. And so and then we also won the Green Difference Award, and we traveled to Boston to get it. So yeah, it was an amazing experience, and I think it's an amazing thing that really every youth group should try and do. So
great. So I want to open up now for questions, but I do want to also point out, having talked with some of the people on City Council and on the Environmental Commission, while the City Council was quite receptive and St. Louis Park is reasonably progressive, this issue of doing a real meaningful and aggressive climate action plan was not on their agenda, was not on their priority list, and it went from not there to like the number one thing for them to do in the environment front. And this consultant that they've hired, they're probably going to be spending $20,000 to $30,000 to develop a serious climate action plan that gets to zero emissions by 2040. The rationale behind that, and we'll talk about that for the report card, the report card is based on what must be done to end the climate crisis as defined by climate scientists. Doesn't matter what people say is possible or not. And so it's not an easy grading system, but it was amazing what happened, that it really flipped and went to the top of the agenda for the city. So right now, before we get into the workshop and how you might do this, or how to start, I want to open up to any questions.
Yeah, so we went around so we had a petition, and we went around in our school and had the St. Louis Park student body sign a petition, and through that we got 500 signatures. Oh yeah, the petition was for going to city council, and it was about our climate report card. So once that climate report card was developed, then the petition happened so that we could show the city council that we had greater support than just our little group, yeah.
And there were some non-students that signed it as well, but they got nearly half the student body. And when one of the fellows who was there isn't here today, but he's the one that said, okay, and it's not just us, and sat the stack of petitions, and that was also pretty powerful. Question in the back, yeah. So the question was, and I should be repeating the question, was how does the funding work for doing a climate action plan in Minnesota? I don't know the full answer to that, but within St. Louis Park, I don't think they're depending on money from the state. They're using funds that they were planning on doing things with, their budget, and so they freed up some budget dollars to do this. But there are some programs in Minnesota that are actually helping cities to do climate action plans, and we're partnering with some organizations on that. But I think this was just prioritization. Wow, so I'm going to repeat that for those that are watching streaming, but money available in New York State from New York State Climate Smart Communities. So let's get a cohort maybe of groups doing this, and then we can tap into that. And so when you go to the city with something like this, they said, well, how would I fund it? Boom, you have an answer. Question back there? So your question is, how do you get them to take you seriously? So the question again was, she's at a school within a school, and they're trying to figure out how to get the bigger school to take them seriously. So, I mean, some of the things that these folks did, the petition to get, as opposed to the administration, work with your peers. If you get more peers, that's one approach. The other I would say is, we actually have a school in California that is a school within a school that's doing the campaign. So if you were involved, I would connect you with them and say, what things are they doing? Because they're about to go conduct petitions within their school. So whether it's on this campaign or another, they might, compare notes with them. If any of you guys want to add a comment.
I would also just say that, for us, the petition from our fellow students was enough, and they accepted that. But if you try a petition and they're not taking credit for that, or they don't see that as anything, I would recommend doing like some sort of fundraiser like we did with the compost fundraiser. I'm sure many of the people who paid for compost would have also been willing to sign a petition if needed. And so if you're finding that even voices of fellow students beyond your group isn't doing enough, members of your community showing support of the group and also giving funds to you, that might help as well.
Another idea, which is part of this campaign, is media attention. Right? If you do something significant, get media involved, and that will raise your visibility. Other questions on this? So the question was, what are the ways that the city is planning on reducing its emissions? So because I happen to live in St. Louis Park, which is sort of a nice coincidence, I can answer some of that. So St. Louis Park did this analysis and realized that 70% of its energy usage comes from corporations. And so there's a separate effort to work with businesses in St. Louis Park to get them to cut emissions, and actually partnering with the utility. And these students are probably going to get pulled in to get involved with that as well. So a lot of work early in this will need to be on electricity and getting the electricity to be 100% renewable rapidly, because you need that to be clean. So then as you transition things that take longer to shift, like cars and like heating, that you can use to change from like natural gas to electric on that. So, but some specific things they're doing is focusing a lot early on businesses, and they're doing some things with their municipal offices too.
Great question. 48,000. Yeah, we're a town of 48,000. So I don't know. I would think it would be easier, if anything, in a small town, but that's just me.
So there's two aspects to it. So smaller town means more people will know you, which means you're going to make that emotional connection with folks. It may be harder for a smaller city to do a climate action plan just from a resources perspective. However, one of our campaigns right now that we're working with is in Grand Marais, Minnesota, which is way up north, and that's a town of about 1,600 people. So we're working through that with them, and then another one, actually someone that is from Plattsburgh, who's now in Poultney, Vermont. That's a smaller town as well. So we're working through that with them. So I think it's very much applicable, but it probably may need to be customized and changed a little bit. And which is really what we encourage, is that every city's situation will be different. So the stuff that they're all talking about is a toolkit that we have, and you'll start seeing that as we get in the workshop. But we work with you, and in fact, they work with you. The youth leaders who are organizers work with you to then help customize and make it appropriate for your situation. All right, why don't we shift now to the workshop portion of this. As these guys pass it out, I will say a couple things for the folks that are streaming. At this point, it's going to be less applicable for the folks that are streaming, but if you want to get involved and you're watching this on streaming, go to now.imatteryouth.org, sign the petition there, create an account, and then we'll follow up with you. So, iMatter, we have this platform, the iMatter Now campaign, iMatter Now platform, and it's organized as a series of quests. And this is what this team went through. In fact, they helped us develop a lot of this. What we're going to be going through today is about 3 of these. And I would say really more like 2.5. We'll talk a little bit more about the report card, how to collect data for it, and then getting on the agenda. So they're passing this stuff out.